Sure. What's up, everybody? It is us, your witches, some call us. I know. It is Manifesting Monday, and it is on Practical Magic, and it's a snow day. Happy February 1st. How's everybody doing tonight?
Very good. Tired from all the shoveling we're hearing. Oh my gosh.
Wait, did you shovel today, Tracy?
Yeah, we did, but we got hit with about 8 inches. You both got a lot more than we did.
We have like at least 12 to 18 inches. And with snow drifts, it's like upwards of like 3 feet.
And is it still snowing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It is still snowing. And I just got a phone call saying that we should stay off the roads even tomorrow. And that is wild. So I'm expecting a big, huge audience, and we can find out what the heck archetypes are. I'm so excited.
I am so excited. Now, can you guys hear a reverb on this? Because I have my headphones in and I hear like a reverb.
Because we were just on another call and there was nothing.
Yeah. Can you? All right. Now I don't hear it. Maybe it was just me. No. I think maybe I didn't have it plugged in.
That's right.
All the way. As long as you guys can hear me and it's no problem.
I'd like to introduce Kim Mazzella, our mindset coach and light docent. I'm Donna Vee, and Tracy LOcke is along with me. We are the lovely hosts, and I am so excited, Kim, because this topic is really exciting. I know we talked about, what is it, an archetype wheel?
Yes. So this is the book that I've had for a lot of years. I have so long that I have the tapes that go along with it. So Caroline Myss is she is a medical intuitive, and she wrote a book called Anatomy of the Spirit. That it was one of the first books that taught me about chakras. And I always talk about learning about the chakras and being like, oh my gosh, like it was such a eye-opening event to have like a language for something that I was kind of experiencing, right? So she was the first person, and it's funny because you would think that I would learn about the chakras in yoga or some other place. No, I learned it from Caroline Myss. So she's a medical intuitive and a very famous one. And I've seen her read, and I've been to see her live a couple times. And so there's a wonderful book called Anatomy of the Spirit that everybody should read. And she really describes that your biology becomes your biography. And you know, as I went on my journey, and, you find other people like Dr. Joe Dispenza. There's a lot of great writers out there. And like for the sciencey people, Caroline Myss was a doctor, and same with Dr. Joe Dispenza. So it's nice to have those doctors really bring in spiritual stuff and kind of combine it with science. So now this isn't, but so what she says is that we basically all come here to work through different themes, and these themes are themes we'll know are themes because we keep banging up against them throughout our life. All themes are neutral, right? All themes are neutral, but they have a positive and a negative to them. So until you work through that theme, the themes that you're kind of working through are the themes that are going where your most power is in life, right? So if you ever did a astrology chart, you could find like where you have a lot of houses. I don't know if you know anything about astrology, but where you have a lot of houses in astrology, that's where you have a lot of work. Like I have no houses in no planets in certain houses. That's what I meant. Where you have a lot of planets, where you have a lot of work.
Like spiritual monopoly.
What?
Spiritual monopoly. I have no houses.
Right.
Just hotels.
So no houses in a certain aspect of a chart that doesn't. I'm sorry, no planets in a house. That means that's not where you're working, right? So your archetypes are like your themes that you're working on in your lifetime, right? And you'll know them. It's not like astrology where you get told them. What you do in Sacred Contrast is you kind of look at your life and you recognize the themes that you're working through. So there is a website that you can go to if you want to know the general themes. This book has a lot of themes in it. But the general themes I had given you, we'll put in.
I'll post it in the, I will post it up right now. I just wanted to say hello to everyone coming in. And if you don't mind holding your questions until the end, that'd be great. And I just want to clarify one other thing before I find your, and post it. When you say it's neutral, do you mean it's not feminine or masculine? Is that what you mean, to clarify for people what neutral would mean?
Neutral means it's not good or bad, right? Okay. So if your theme is one of my theme is the gambler, right? Because I'm a real risk taker and I'll sometimes risk my whole life on things. So that would make me a gambler, right?
Okay.
So in some ways that theme could be really seen as negative, but in some ways it could be really positive too. I'm willing to try out new things. I'm willing to put myself in positions I'm willing to constantly motivate myself to try new things or seek new ways of trying things. I'm risk oriented, which might be good and might be bad, you know? So it's a matter of working through the theme to really get the power of the theme. Every theme that you work through in your life is really your power base. So it might start out negative, but it could end up being the most powerful thing in your life, right? I always say, because if you look at my life, addiction is one of my themes. And addiction has been such a crazy blessing to me, because if it wasn't for addiction, I would never have been so low and so willing to stand on my head and do anything that people told me would make me feel better. And in the doing of that, I learned so many things that actually work, right? And I would have done them if I hadn't been at rock bottom. Probably not, right? So our themes, we all come and experience 4 of these themes. 4 of these themes none of us get away with, and we have to work through them. So the 4 themes that we are all working through in life, no matter what we say, no matter how much we pretend we're not, are the child. And there's a lot of different versions of the child. There's like the magical child, or the I can go into what the child is. There's like a lot of like the wounded child,
right?
You know, so there's different versions of a child. The saboteur. So we all sabotage ourselves, which kind of like when I first read that, I thought, oh, good, I'm not alone in that, because why do we do that? Right? It's such a human condition that we want something, and then the second we want something, we sabotage it. Right? Right. Another thing that we're all working through is the victim. And then the final theme that we're all working through is the prostitute. So remember, these are not negative or positive. They're challenges that we all have to work through. So the victim becomes the victor. The prostitute walks into integrity. So if you can understand it, that, you know, in prostitute is really, in what ways do you trade your integrity for something that you want, right? Do you sell yourself? And it's not about just your body, you know, like, are you in a job that you're doing for money? That could be that's prostitute energy. If you're doing something that you can't stand, but it pays you a lot of money, that's prostitute energy. So when we work through that, so all of these themes, when we work through them, the blessing of the themes is we find our power, we step into our joy. So there's a lot of other themes, and the way we figure them out is by kind of looking at our life. So I can share you mine, right? This is my chart, and this is what you eventually create. So if you go to that website, do you want to put the website up?
I can put it up.
Okay. There's so many cool archetypes. There's the child, there's the divine child, there's the queen, there's the femme fatale. And you'll know if you know, I'm not a femme fatale. I would never confuse myself as one. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but you have to kind of look at yourself and be willing to really look at who you are in order to figure out what your themes. So one of mine is communicator. I'm always talking, right?
Just so everyone knows, I did share this link in the comments. So all you have to do is go copy and paste on whatever page you're on, and you can click right on this and either follow along with us, or you can look afterward. And I know that, I think we talked about, we're going to have to do this in more than one segment. So
definitely. Yeah. This is really exciting. So many.
Yeah. So one of my favorite themes, and I wish it was me, but it's not, is the alchemist. And other words for alchemist are wizard, magician, scientist, and inventor, right? So, you know, and you could look at it and say, well, in some ways I'm an alchemist, but has it been a theme throughout my whole life? Has this been something I've been working for my whole life? Another theme is an athlete, right? You'll know if that's your theme. I mean,
I'm definitely not an athlete.
Artist,
more like Tracy.
you know. Um, you know, and so you don't have to necessarily you don't have to necessarily be a paid athlete to have the archetype of the athlete. But or do you work out? Do you use your body to, you know, and your physical power to do your life? That might be an athlete. Someone who's, you know, I know a guy who's very scary strong and can lift stuff all the time, and people will rely on him to move things around, or, you know. But then if you are an athlete in life, that could be your theme. So it's really kind of fun to look through them. I found it almost like really having to get to, just by trying to discover what your themes are, you really do get in touch with yourself, because you only get to choose 12. And so, because there's 12 houses that we place our themes, so you only get to choose 12. And
Can
so
you talk a little bit about that? Like, why is it 12?
Yes.
Before we get into the alchemy.
Well, before we get
ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. Just from the person who is the layman, I just want to start from scratch, because it's a lot of information, and I do want to say that we are going to do it in more than one part. So don't be worried if you're watching it for the first time and you're like, oh my God, what is this? It's overwhelming. There is a lot, but an archetype is a theme, correct? So just a real quick definition, Kim, of just what an archetype is. It's just a theme in your life. Is that how you would say it?
So an archetype, if you think of it as a general arc of your life that your whole life will expand through, and your life during your lifetime, you're going to work through the archetype. So that means that you are going to experience it again and again and again until it makes you the best version of yourself. Or if you don't do the work, it just keeps showing up and beating you down until you decide to deal with it. So one of my archetypes is addict, right? And some of us die from being addicts. But those of us who work through the addict archetype are able to use that as a platform for growth, right? So really what an archetype is the way you live your life. Like, so if you're a dilettante, is the theme the story of your life? It will be part of your life. Yes, it's part of the story of your life. Correct. Yes. So because the addict theme, you know, I still use those words, even though I don't behave in that way. In some ways, I feel that my addict is very, like, because if you think about what an addict is, this is the person who will try something a billion different ways, and we will be try it again, and we have perseverance like no other, right? We will carry through and just, you know, try again and again. And in many ways, my addict personality is the reason I have become such a teacher of these things, because I wanted everyone to know, you know, you can heal through addiction.
I think an addict personality too would be someone that trades one, like what you're saying is, and I'm just reiterating it in plain and simple terms, trades one for another. So for instance, someone who may have been an alcoholic and then stops drinking, and then all of a sudden decides they're going to eat because they can't drink anymore, and then they realize they're obese, so they want to stop. So then they become addicted to going to the gym and getting healthy. They may even be addicted to going to meetings, you know, and it's like continuing that behavior. It can be in a positive and it can be in a negative, which is exactly what you said before. It's neutral. So that, to me, when you said it earlier, this hits home and makes complete sense. So what I was just saying, Tracy, is that's where the negative and that's where the positive is. So it could be negative as if someone were to be an alcoholic and go to, you know, be addicted to drinking, and then they're addicted to going to meetings, and then they become, you know, the overeater, and then they're like, oh shit, now I gotta go to the gym. And it's like that. And then somebody's a shopaholic, and you know, I'm very familiar with this.
Great. So we have that, and that's in a nutshell. That's very easily understood the way you guys described that. Then we are creating tonight a wheel of 12 different of these types, correct?
Well, we could do it tonight, or we could go through the different types of archetypes, because there's so many.
Yeah, but, whatever you think, Kim.
I think we should touch on like the main different kind of themes, and maybe if we go through that, because there's so many. Like court jester could be the same as dilettante. So one of the themes is you've got to kind of really read through them, because one of the things my mom is, and she used to put herself down for it so much, is she is interested in a ton of things, and she learns a little about a ton of things. And she used to see that as something negative. And I'd say, no, Mom, you're a dilettante. You love lots of things, and you learn, and you constantly are learning new things. So you know a little about a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually a really positive way to see that. So, you know, a court jester is someone who likes to make other people happy and is willing to make themselves feel silly in the process. So maybe court jester you could look at comedian and what that theme is, or you could look at court jester and that might be a different theme on the same idea. So there's different themes on the same idea. I mean, because if you think about it, in my archetypal wheel, my risk taking was so strong. You would think it would be within the addict, but I had to, because when I look at my life and how willing I am to take risks, and I had to make a whole archetype for gambler, because I constantly throw myself into new things my whole life, right? So then you could say, well, child, I've grown up so much, you know, so child, orphan.
There's so many.
Yeah, there's a lot of child. So there's the wounded child. If you go down, everybody has the child. So there's the magical child, the innocent child, the nature. Like, so are you someone that was always outside? Do you need to connect to animals or things like that? That would be, and then the orphan child. I actually coached someone who we decided they were the orphan because they always felt abandoned. So if you always feel like you're going to be abandoned, you might want to use your child archetype as the orphan, right? As the, you know, if you felt like your parents were not there, and then your lover was not there, and then your, you know, orphan child might be a theme you're working through in life. So it's a good idea to read through them. And is there so wounded child, magical child, yeah, wounded child is a very big theme that people work through. So the wounded child is someone, you know, we all have wounds, but you'll know if you're a wounded child. I mean, like, if it's something that keeps coming up, right? A lot of people who are children of divorce would probably be considering themselves wounded children.
Which is interesting, because you could totally be abandoned and wounded if you're a child of divorce.
Yeah, but you'll know which one you are because it'll show up in your experience again and again. And usually, remember, whatever it is that is in your, that you decide, it's going to keep showing up. You know, I definitely feel like there's some archetypes that I could say, oh, I have that, but not all the time, right? Like, right. So yeah, I might have been a wounded child, but I don't consider myself the wounded child. I use the archetype of the child. Really, when I look at them, I thought about doing the innocent child because I'm such a, Pollyanna when it comes to human beings, but I don't really think that was me, because as a child, I was also a little bit of a bully too, but I wasn't a bully enough to make it my archetype. So if you could go to the website and decide, look at the child and say, what kind of child am I? I chose just plain child, because none of them I felt enough theme throughout my life. But you have to pick saboteur. So let's talk about saboteur for a second, because I don't know. Do you know anybody who doesn't sabotage themselves from time to time? I really haven't met anybody. And so that's why we all get that theme. And it's really unfortunate, because if you think about it, why is that part of the human condition, right?
And for those of the people that don't know, saboteur is someone that will put up an obstacle in front of things for themselves constantly in every facet of their life, or is it usually one facet, or it doesn't matter? You can be a saboteur about anything.
I think because we all get the archetype, we don't get to not put it in our wheel. That most of us will do it often, and then as we get older, get better at it, and then we might find it in one area, especially the area that we want the most, right?
Right. Sure.
So I think that why we're all saboteurs, and just hear me out, is that when we came into this planet from the other side, we could just think something into existence, and it was very, very easy, right? But we couldn't experience it. So we didn't want to make it so easy for ourselves. We wanted to give ourselves challenges to savor it and to make it a little bit sweeter. So we instilled in us this is just my thinking, this thing that gave us a little bit of challenge. And that challenge is fear of what we want, right? So we all kind of fear going after what we want because deep down inside that we all feel that we're not worthy of it. And I think we all need to work through that worthy piece, right? And one of the things I think that happens, at least if you do the work on yourself, right? If you do work on yourself, I find that when you get to your 40s and 50s, you really work through the worthy piece. Like if you do work on yourself, at least in my experience in the work with people, I have such aha moments with women when I see them getting that, "Oh, I deserve this." Like that is such a exciting moment in my life when I see a woman switch over from that I'm not worthy feeling that we all seem to just have instilled in us since birth.
Self-sabotaging is something that we do because a lot of people feel afraid. There's a fear of success. I think that there's a great fear of success. I can say as a woman who has, owned a business, raised kids, I still don't find I've said this to you guys both privately, publicly. I don't care. I can be vulnerable about it, where I have said I don't feel like I've done enough. And I have friends that their heads will spin. And it's not, I'm not saying it because I'm looking for a pat on the back. I'm saying it because I sincerely mean it. I sincerely feel that I have yet to find that feeling of, oh, okay, well, I've made it in my business. Because there's not a day that goes by when you have a business or whatever it is that you've created in your life. I can only speak for myself, where there's not something that doesn't go wrong, where you're like, see, I didn't perfect it. So it's like that striving for perfection can be completely self-sabotaging. Or how about the underlying theme that all women that I know, not many women that I'm not friends with because I'm not friends with supermodels or whatever, but how many women sit there and say to themselves, God, if I only would have appreciated myself. I saw a picture of myself in my 20s. I should have been walking around naked. Right. And someday I'm going to be 70 and I'm going to think I should be walking around naked in this body. In this body, I sit there and I go, oh no, I can't change in front of you. It's too embarrassing. Like, I think we all do it. And I wonder if it's because ego says that if we were to walk around and feel so successful that we'd actually, I think it would just come across the wrong way, or we'd be fearful that it would come across the wrong way.
Well, do you know what's so interesting about that? And I know Kim's going to say something, and I don't want to cut you off, Kim, but it's so fascinating. I don't know if you guys know who Tracy Anderson is, but she is a workout queen. And she talked, I just read this article today about body image, and she was talking about body image and how you need to love your body and, all the stuff that we talk about. And she goes, there is one woman that I know that has never body shames herself, that she loves herself, and she openly says it. And she works with her as a client, and she's like, J-Lo. She goes, J-Lo has never said anything negative about her body. She loves her body and she works it. And if you see J-Lo, who just did the halftime show at 50, so everyone saw J-Lo last year, she exudes that
of course she does.
Bam, bam, bam. But I think a lot of it
polishes her silverware. Like, some people are like, I love my drapes, I love my silverware, but she takes care of it, and she is someone who actually does. I'm saying I haven't worked out in a bunch of years, and in my mind, I should still look the way I looked when I was working out like a nut, and I don't. So there's that thing, there's that piece. I know how to fix it, but it's
no. I was saying I think it's fascinating that she just owns it. I'm saying I think it's great that she just owns it and doesn't say anything about negative about herself, even when she's feeling like she was. This article, what she was saying was when she first came in to work with Tracy Anderson, and her butt was bigger and this was bigger, and that proportionally, she's like, she never was negative about herself. She just said, I want to get myself in the best place I can be. But it was just interesting because she was saying it was so inspiring to be around a woman who wasn't doing that. And I just thought that was really cool. I'm saying that's an awesome place to get to. But
here's the other thing is that, like, one of the things, because I've been listening to a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza, I don't know if you know who he is, but he talks about the fact that we can get into a feeling or an emotion of anything. We just have to train ourselves into it. And so your feeling about your career or not being there, that's just something that you haven't taken on. Like, you can actually feel like you've made it or enjoy where you've been. Because Donna, I do think that you've had moments where you look back and gone, wow, this is great. Like
Yeah.
I do think that you've had those moments where like, wow, I love where I am right now. And I know you enough to know that you've been there, but you could have more moments where you just recognize how, like, one of the things that I remember at my wedding was I was standing next to somebody and he said to me, just, you worked really hard on this. Just step back for a second and enjoy this moment. And I remember being like, oh, okay. And I think that we have to have those moments in our life where we step back. And it was such a great thing because it was a great wedding and I did work really hard on it. And I mean, for whatever happened, it was a great moment in my life.
Why
And
don't you even bring us off topic? I just wanted to say that was the self-sabotaging portion of the archetype.
Right. Well, no, but what I'm saying is I do want to remind everybody who's watching this that when you're feeling like that self-sabotage, that's just a decision that you've made, and that it's a thought, it's not true. Right. And so you can find a way to feel better in those moments anyway.
Of course.
Yeah.
What's the next one that we have to have? We have to have.
Okay, so we all have to have the victim. Right. Which is I always like when I first was learning this, I'm like, what's the difference between that and a saboteur? It feels very much the same to me, but it's really not, because the saboteur is someone who's going after something and then trips on something purposefully. Right. The victim is someone who assumes that there's someone tripping them. Right. So a victim is you are the reason I don't have what I want, or that is the reason I don't have what I want. A victim always looks out in the world and makes a decision that the world is the reason that it is not working out for you.
They never take ownership.
Yeah. And just so we know, we're going to put our victims in our archetypes in houses. And I was so mad when I did the house because my victim is in the first house of ego and personality. And I was like, no, it's not. Like when I did this, I was like, I want to redo. I'm not doing that.
Right.
But then when I really thought about it, I'm like, yeah, victimhood really did shade a lot of my addiction. And I felt like I felt like it was unfair, and I felt like I had something that was out of my control, and felt so really, truly, if I really look back at my life and think about what the positive of the victim is the victor, right? When you work through an addiction, or you work through ownership of whatever the theme is that you're working on, right? Where the problem is that you're working on. And when you really step into your power, you become the victor. And I think that made me feel a little bit better about getting the victim in the first house, which I'll talk about in a little bit.
Okay, I was going to say, because I don't know what that means when you say like in the first house and the second house.
Okay, so this is my archetypal wheel, and eventually everybody who watches this will create an archetypal wheel.
Okay.
And so you create it yourself. You pick your archetypes, and then you literally cut them up and put them in a bowl. And you do like a little prayer or whatever. And then you say to yourself out loud, this is going to be the archetype. And I did it with, my guides. I did this many, many years ago. This is the archetype of the first house. So the first house is the house right here. And it matches astrology. So the houses are the same. So this is the house of ego and personality. In astrology, it was the house of the soul. So if like I'm a Gemini, so my first house would be in wait, no, I'm getting that wrong. No, that's not right. Because actually it's your rising sign is your first house. So it would be Capricorn for me.
Mine would be Leo.
What? Yeah.
Mine would be Leo. That's my rising.
How do you know that? That's just based on when you're born?
Birth time. Yeah, it's birth time and place where you're born.
Okay.
You can put that into, there's all sorts of sites you can use.
Birth time.
But you don't need to know that for this, because this is just, we're kind of borrowing the houses. So in my first house of ego and personality, I had the victim. Right. So that's like how you feel, how the world perceives you, and how you think you're perceived in the world, how you act and behave in the world. So the victim is someone who is someone who is woe is me. So I guess for a lot of years, I must have come across as that, especially when I was in my addiction. So then
okay, wait, let me stop you here because this is really complex and it's so interesting and I don't want to lose people. So when you're saying the first house is the ego house, you're saying that you are the victim, which seems like the opposite of who you are that I know.
Yeah,
because I know because you worked through it. But who's making that decision of what goes in the first house and who you are?
You do. You make
so
that.
You chose victim as your first house.
I didn't choose it. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
So here, okay, so it's a lot. We need like a flow chart. We need like a white.
It is. It's very confusing. That's why I'm trying to break it down.
Did you hear her? She said you cut them up, you put them in a bowl, you pray, and you pick. And the first one you pick goes in your first house. The second goes in your second house. So we're going to find a site, or if you can tell me, Kim, of a place that I can instruct people to go, because it's a lot. And remember, I just want to say this with all due respect to the three of us that are here. We are three women. Kim is a life coach. She is teaching us. And this is the first, we didn't even have a meeting before this. This is like, we are having a conversation that we would have with a group of women in a women's group. The difference is our women's group is the three of us and virtually the rest of us. So there's tons of questions, which I love. And I think that it's really interesting. And this is why we definitely can do this topic more than just one, in one night. But the basic overview is that we are talking about archetypes. The site that we set, that we put up the link, which I'll put it up again, talks about the differences in archetypes. We then take those archetypes that you go through and you pick 12, actually you pick 8 because the 4 are the ones that everyone has, which we have in our banner, which would be child, saboteur, victim, and prostitute. And then we're going to go through and find out that you put them in a wheel. First house is ego, and then Kim's going to go through and explain it to us even more. But you put them in a bowl, you cut them up, you pray over it, and then you pick. Is that right, Kim?
Yep, that's beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, so do you want to go over the? Oh, thank you. Do you want to go over the archetype?
Do you want to go over the archetype?
Or do you want to go over the houses?
I would love to find out how. All right, so you chose your 8 additional archetypes. Then you filled in you filled out the 12 of them, and then you put them into your, okay. All right, what is this? Start with the archetype from young, then move to 12 families or houses.
Well, I mean, I think that I hear myself talking back. Do you hear me talking back?
I did, but now I don't. You echoed for a minute, but now you're done. Now you're not.
Okay. So then we'll start the houses. The first house is the ego personality. So this is like, I think of it like the foundation of a house, how you're perceived, your soul, your, what does it say here? Your identity, right? So whatever you get in your first house is how the world sees you, your identity. And also, like, this is really the biggest archetype that you're working through. So mine was victim, which is a bummer. When I got it, I was really mad. I got to tell you, I was like, I want to redo.
Totally.
Yeah. So your second house, which is below it. So it's just like in astrology. For those of you who know astrology, the second house is right here, right? Oh, let me go over this way. So it goes down. So astrology, this is how astrology houses are also. So the second house is very similar to the second house in astrology, and it is life values. So in astrology, I think of the second house as like finance, your actual money, your actual financial ability, but this is like life values. So so like what is important to you shows up in this house. I have the saboteur. I was like, really? So if you think about what that means, whenever I strive for something, I would sabotage it. And I really feel like it took me until my 40s to really work through a lot of these very difficult archetypes, because I have in like some really strong houses the really difficult archetypes, which would make sense for someone who started out as an addict. Okay, so the third house is self-expression and siblings, just like in astrology. And so there I got guide, mentor.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
right. So if you think about it, self-expression, how do I am a guide and guide, and I was one young. I became a teacher of these things. Literally, I would learn stuff, turn around it, and teach it to people, because I just, when I would start to feel better, I knew so many addicts, and they'd be like, let's do this. And like an addict, when I started getting well, I became addicted to that too. I mean, I went to drumming things, and I mean, I was like sieging.
That's what I was talking about before. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
You turned it over and you became, yes, more positive.
Yeah. So the fourth house is just the same as in astrology, and it's the home. So I always think of the fourth house as, I don't know if you know what a Cancer is, like the sign of Cancer. Cancer is a very family-oriented sign, like home-oriented sign. If you know someone who's a Cancer, they're people that love to be in their house. They love to entertain in their house. And so the fourth house, what you get in your fourth house is how you treat your home. So I got the gambler, which, you know, if you think about my life, I picked up and moved so many times. Like, I'm just gonna, there was one point in my life where I moved like every few years, because I was like, had enough of this place, let's go over here. I have worked through that. So
I always remember that, because the crab, like, it lives in its shell. It like lives in its actual home.
Yeah. So when it gets too big for it, or when it grows beyond it, it needs a new home. Yeah. So then the fifth house is the same. It's creativity and good fortune, right? So fifth house is creativity and good fortune. So it's over here. And I got the communicator, and in my fifth house. So that is where, like, the fifth, I think of the fifth house is like what you love to do, you know, and so if you think about me, it's the communicator.
Can't wait to do this.
I know, it's exciting.
The sixth house is your occupation and your health, which is a little, you know, I think of the sixth house as in astrology as being like work versus career. So it's a little different than astrology, because in astrology, the sixth house is really like how you work. But I guess when in this, it's about your health and your occupation. And then, just like in astrology, the seventh house is marriage and relationships. And so I got wounded healer there, which really,
You're like, what? That's so funny.
like, that sucks. Like,
do you change this again? I have to just ask.
Now, this has been mine for years. Once you do it, don't change it. It's
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What if the market's good and you get a good return on your seventh house? You're like, well.
You're like, wow, I could double down and flip my houses around.
Well, because if you think about it, when you're working through a theme, and these themes are supposed to be themes that you work through your whole life, if you just keep the houses because I made this when I was young, like, and now as I'm older, I see how like so much of it has really been good for me, at least when it comes to my experience in my life. The thing is that you may be working through it and a theme doesn't exist anymore, and you're like, oh, that can't be, I must have picked the wrong theme there. And then you might want to re-look at what you picked. Because that's why when I did this, it took me a couple months to pick. I really had a hard time because you're picking 12, right? And it was like, oh, I got to get this perfect. You know, the addict in me, I've got to get this perfect.
I have mine done by tonight. I'll be like, like bing, bing, bing.
Exactly. I know we're going to go through the houses. So I want to add this in because I don't want to forget. Let's just keep going through the houses. But just remind me what you're going to say.
Okay.
Let's keep going to the houses. We're on the eighth house.
Okay, we're on the eighth house, which is other people's resources, which is interesting because that's also in astrology, but also astrology is the house of sex. It's the house of death, and it kind of but it also is a house of other people's resources. So in eighth house, I got the Sage, and I still find like maybe I haven't figured that one out yet. But but if you really read, like everybody should buy this book, and then Carolyn May should thank me.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you really read through it, it does make a lot of sense. But if you look at her website, she also really explains it really well on her website. The 9th house is the house of spirituality, and it relates, each one of these houses relates to a chakra. It relates to, but I don't want to get it that complicated.
Say it again. The 9th house is what? I was looking at the
Spirituality.
Right, like how you express your spirituality, what your theme is on spirituality. So for me, I got this was the 9th house, right? Addiction there. So if you think about my spirituality, and I can, first place, I kind of can be somewhat addicted to it, right?
But read the Course in Miracles 3,000 times.
I take it very seriously. But I finally broke down and bought a new one because I couldn't stand reading the broken. I finally have a new Course in Miracles book.
Nice.
Since 1987, I had the old one, and I kept putting the pieces back together and gluing the binding.
That's awesome.
When I realized it was like $22, I was like, really, Kim? Come on.
Yeah, but it's got to be sentimental. You know what I mean?
It was like my home.
Your guide. Yeah.
It was important to me. So if you think about spirituality and how you express it, how it shows up in your life, it's not just that I'm addicted to it. It's my addict is the reason I became spiritual. I always tell a story about when I was really in my lowest point. I tried I lived in Manhattan, so it made it easier, right? I tried 42 different types of houses of worship in a year of time.
Wow. That's really cool, though. That must have been a fascinating
thing. I'll go to this thing. I'll go to this one. I'll go. So over a year, and I was with people of all different colors and creeds and nationalities, and I just kept trying it out, seeing if this a place for me. And that's how I found the Unity Center in Philadelphia, at Avery Fisher Hall, and I ended up going there. And I loved the Unity Center. It was with this guy named Eric Butterworth. I don't think he's alive anymore. And 20 minutes of the session was a meditation, and it was very new age. And I have tapes of his, and he really was part of it was like, it spoke to me. And everybody in my life ended up going to the Unity Center. If you knew me, I went to the Unity Center with me I don't even know if it's there anymore. There's one in Montclair, but it's not quite the same.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's still in Montclair. We're talking 20 years ago, and I kind of do my own stuff now.
Right.
Yeah. So the 10th house, let me just make sure I have the right. Okay. So in astrology, your 10th house is the 10th house of occupation and career. In this, it's highest potential. And I think I love my 10th house placement because I have my child in the 10th house. And if you think about what I do and what I believe, a lot of what I teach is like the love that a child would feel, right? I teach getting back to back, like if you think about the idea of return to love, it's if you think about how a child loves, I love that that's the highest potential. My highest potential is the child archetype, because for me, that would mean that, that innocent child, that believes in the best in all people and the best and that's really how I feel. And that's what I want to create. Like I always want to see the best in others and know, because when I coach someone, if I coach someone and I didn't believe that there was so much greatness, and if you come to me and I'm coaching you, I know before we even started that there's so much greatness in each person just wanting to shine. Yeah. So I felt like that made a lot of sense.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. And then the 11th house is the is the relationship to the world. So in astrology, it's like friends. So your relationship to the world. And so when you think about your relationship to the world, it's not just people in your life in this, but like how you what you want for the world, what you want to create, what how you relate to other people in your lives, how you relate to the people that you work with. And in my 11th house, I have dreamer, which, like most of my archetypes are all like,
Right. That's cool.
I like that one.
Yeah. And then finally the 12th house, which is the house of unconscious. And so that means the things that are hidden, that you don't want to look at, or the thing, like, it's really, the 12th house is the house of the things that you don't want to work on, right? The things that you don't want to face.
Okay.
And don't we have those in our life? And mine is the prostitute.
Yeah.
I love how Tracy's like, wow, like she cannot wait to do this either.
I know. This is so cool.
So what does that mean? Like, so if mine's the prostitute, I don't like to look at how I trade my value.
Wait. The 12th house is in prostitute. The 12th house is the house of unconsciousness.
Unconscious.
Your house may be prostitute, girl.
I heard prostitute, and I was like, hey, yeah.
She's like, the 12th house is the house of prostitution. So bring your cash money, kids.
We're all going to the 12th house later.
Woo!
Wait. What is it? The 12th house is what?
The house of the unconscious.
Unconscious.
Oh, the unconscious.
Donna's like, I think I'm going to the 12th house.
I think unconsciously, I just showed you.
It's like the hidden things that you don't want to look at, right? So, and it's funny because I really think that as you get older, the 12th house is the thing that you have to look at, right? So that's really the where the hard work is. So,
He's got it. He's got it. It's already there. Be like, it's hidden in there.
That's hilarious.
It's hidden.
that
is awesome. That is awesome. Okay, wait a second. Now, this is so exciting. To Donna's point, this is awesome. So this was the question that I had to ask. Once you get these in a bowl and you pick your stuff, then you say a prayer. What kind of prayer do you say?
Well, okay, so how I pray, and I mean, I've changed this over the years, but I did this when I was right after I had kids. So maybe 17 years ago or 18 years. So this is how I always pray. You've heard me pray before, right? So when I'm trying to create a space, first I say, surround me in a white light of protection, right? And then this is my prayer, and this is the prayer I use all the time. So I say, may the Archangel Michael stand on my right, Gabriel on my left, Uriel before me, Raphael behind me. Now, if you don't like that, if you don't like working with angels, if they don't feel appropriate, you could say, may I have the energy of protection and positivity in my right, energy of protection and positivity on my left, the energy of transformation in front of me, and the energy of healing behind me. It's the same thing, right? It's just different ways of seeing the same thing. Then I say above my head, below my feet, and all throughout the divine light of God. That's what I say. You can say it however you want. And then I will say, I asked only the highest truth to be created. If I will touch or do anything that is not in alignment with my highest truth and my best information, then stop me from doing it. Then I'll say, I ask to be aligned so I work with guides. So I'll say those guides of highest vibrational good only. And I'll say, please guide me to all the right choices right now so that I can see the highest truth for myself. Thank you. That works for me.
That's no joke. That is a prayer. Wow, that is
the
amazing.
thing is that you can rewind and rewatch and learn this seriously for anyone that's interested in doing it.
Yeah, no, it is great. I'm being totally sincere when I say that. It's great. It's like,
well, just so you know, when I work with people, I'll do that, and then I'll say, Michael be on my left, but I'll say that prayer, and then I'll say, I ask that we're connected in a tight tunnel of light, that I only say the truth, the highest truth, nothing but the truth. I ask that anything that I say be uplifting, and that if I'm going to say anything that is not uplifting or of highest vibrational good for the other person, that my mouth is clamped shut. So I always ask to be guided, because I do believe that there's help in the universe, and why not take advantage of it?
Right.
And that, especially help of highest vibrational good. I mean, I personally believe in a source of energy, but whatever works for you. And right. I work with everybody.
Okay. And then again, on the practical note, so you say your prayer, you do your thing, then you pull it out one at a time, and then you put them right in the houses. What
I did was, this is like the 6th version of this because I copied it over, because I always keep it on my board, and after a while it looks bad. what I did was I created a circle like with big spaces, and then I'd say this goes in the first house, this goes in the second house, this goes in the third house. I kept them turned over because I knew me, and I knew I might get annoyed with where something landed.
Sure.
So I kept it and then I uncovered it after it was all done.
I like that.
That's a good idea too.
I'm sure if I had gotten the victim first, I would have been like, no way, and I would put it back in.
So that's great. That's great. I love that idea of turning them over and putting them in the circle so you don't know what you get until the end.
Yeah.
Wow.
I do too.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so ladies. All right, go ahead, Kim.
One of the things that I do think that you can use, why would you use these archetypes? Because when you really understand what each, and I would say really understand the houses, like start to know the houses. I know the houses well because I also do astrology. And so to me, to understand that, when I really got that communication was such an important part of my self-expression and my joy, because it's in the 5th house, like that made me feel better about the fact that I need to communicate through my job, and that made sense. And when I understood that in my career house, I was the student, right? I'm always going to be learning new things. I mean, I'm constantly learning new things. Even today I was listening to a new book by I'm always learning. If you look at my Audible, I'm constantly like learning, open to new teachers all the time. So you'll learn more about yourself. And also even looking through the archetypes, it teaches you to be fearless, to really look at yourself, because some of them, like I have a client that picked the bully, and like no one wants to admit that they're bully. Everybody wants to be queen, right? Like everybody wants to have the queen archetype. Like there is the queen archetype. And I'm like, oh, I want to be her. But like when I read through it, I'm like, I'm not her.
So I can see how it would take time though, because even like looking at, the link that you sent, there's so many examples, whether it be books or movies. Like, so if you're even questioning it, there's like, you wouldn't want to pick the wrong one. Like you'd want to do your homework on it. But I'm sure there's something that resonates immediately, with some people.
Right. And that's what you definitely have to do. And I remember when I was picking them, I had a couple that I was, because I have dreamer and I have child. And I was like, well, I couldn't decide if they were covering each other, but then I really had to think about my life, and I decided to include the dreamer. And I don't remember what I got rid of because it was 17 years ago. But I mean, I remember.
You're like my ex-husband.
She got rid of her freedom 17 years ago. She got her kids. That's what she got rid of.
But you have to be really, I guess the bottom line is that I was going to say to both of you is like, you've got to be really brutally honest with yourself when you do this. And it's really important to get into like, I'm assuming a good space when you read through these and just concentrate.
Yeah.
And because it's an important thing. This is so interesting. I'm so excited to do this. You have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely, what we could do is, if you want to work on it again next week and make your charts together, we could do it.
Oh yeah. Look at Donna. Donna's like, I cannot be that vulnerable on camera.
Totally be that vulnerable.
I know. I'm teasing you.
And if anybody watching this wanted to make a chart and we could talk about it, that could be something that could be done also.
No, like, when the hell am I going to have time for this? I got to read now. I hope we get that snow day tomorrow.
That's hilarious. So, okay, then I guess I know this is a huge question, and we might not even have time for it tonight. So once you do that chart, once you make your wheel, then what?
Then you keep it on your board for the rest of your life, and you'll say, oh, let's think, saboteur, second house of values. You really use it to recognize, like, well, how do I sabotage my values? How do I sabotage the things I want? Or it's like a tool, kind of like a birth chart. So it's something that you want to call upon when you're doing something to say, okay, so when it comes to my spirituality, I have the addict there. What is that teaching me? So I think that it's another way to understand who you are.
That's really cool. That's incredible. Do you refer to that wheel when you're making decisions?
Well, it's really funny because I have two things that are always in front of me. And one is the stuff that I'm working on this year. So, and this has always been, so I have a board in front of me. Now I have a lot of, like, if you can't see here, but I work with a lot of sticky notes. So I always have a lot of sticky notes, but sorry. So every year I do this thing, which is I have 3 words for the year. And so my words for this year are freedom, abundance, and well-being. I told you last year was like sacrifice, and
Yeah, and you're
Oh
like,
my God,
no.
you pulled that one in. Look at that. She
Thanks
called
for
it in, ladies
2020,
and gentlemen.
Kim.
I know I created it.
Now,
But
go ahead.
no, freedom, abundance, and well-being is going to be 2021.
Abundance of snow, freedom to shovel.
Yeah, third one.
And
But I'll never do another year of sacrifice again.
Please don't. Please don't. We've had more than enough this year, Kim Mazzella. Thank you very little. Now, Donna, you were saying that people are asking a lot of questions. Were people asking questions about the wheel, or were they asking if you're single? Look at that smile you've had. All that she's like, Blue River.
We have comments, but it's more about the wheel becoming a map.
Okay.
Do you choose your picks, or do you let the picks choose you? Wait, that was the end of the sentence. It only happens with me. I swear to God, I'm turning as pink as my hair right now. I feel like I look at you guys and it's like, what happened?
Okay, so I guess everyone's asking the same question that I was. Basically, again, on the real practical side, this is kind of like a roadmap that you can use when you're making a decision and take a look at what hot button this is hitting and why it might be affecting you in a certain way. I think if you know a little bit, this obviously teaches you a little bit more about yourself and what are some of your weak points that you don't even realize that you have, meaning that the fact that everybody has those 4 archetypes is so interesting to me. And, I always like 3 of them. I'm like, oh yeah, I see that in myself. And then 1, I'm like, no, I would never be that. But then of course I am all 4, but it's just so interesting as to what your personality pushes against.
Right.
I think, go ahead, Kim.
And I feel like that about the prostitute. I would never trade my integrity. And then I got that in the unconscious. So like that really tells me that there's ways I'm not looking at it. Like I'm not willing to face it,
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I just think it's interesting. I love learning like a different way to look at yourself. I love to find, it's like, I know it's a silly analogy, but you know me, I like to make my analogies. It's like if you just tomorrow went for allergy testing, you'd be allergic to something that you didn't even realize it because it would be so subtle. So it's kind of like in this situation where when you look at like the child, but yet you break it down. I mean, I could see myself let's just say this, okay? Like I could see myself as I looked and the Avenger. I mean, like I don't find myself to be the Messiah, but I always want to like stick up for people. I want to save everybody. Like, like if somebody was getting bullied, I'd be the one that would want to like be like, leave that kid alone kind of thing. But yet on the same token, I find it very interesting that in the child part, I definitely am looking to find it because it really resonated with me, and it's alphabetical down. I go back to school. So like, well, would I be wounded or orphaned? My parents are divorced. I definitely, have the
orphan.
The issues with feeling like, what did you say, Wise Guy?
I said orphaned. I said orphaned. No, I know what you're saying. That's what I mean.
Yes, your mom passed away when you were younger. So that technically makes you have a very different feeling than if your mom was alive and you argued with her. But yet there's a way to detach from a parent. My parents are alive. And my mother's maybe watching. She's probably tuned out because we didn't answer a question, which is, how did you guys make out in the snow? I'm like, hey, we're talking about archetypes, okay? Let's not talk about the landscape. But the point is like my therapist says it all the time. There's a very orphaned behavior that comes with having parents that were young, got divorced, and then did their own thing.
Right.
They can still be alive. It doesn't mean they dropped me off on a doorstep, although I might have gone to college.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fascinating exercise for everyone to do. Again, it's a super insightful exercise, and it makes you confront some of your demons that you didn't even realize that you had.
Very hard. I'm going to be honest with you. I remember when I did it, it took me a long time because I found it. uncomfortable to pick these themes because I kept wanting to pick themes that seem so fun, but they weren't really like matching.
Right.
But Donna, one thing I want to mention is if there has to be some sort of archetype in there. I can't remember for humanitarian or because that would definitely be yours. Like you would have to take that one somewhere. I have to.
Let's see. I'll just share it with you really quick. Great question, Tracy. Is Donna single?
Moon River.
There is the archetype of the lover.
Lover. Hello, lover.
Hello, lover. Lover. Angel, fairy, godmother. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's a ton of them, which we will have to go through on our own. But I guess my question is too, what will we do next week with this wheel? Because we can't let it go. We're already at 59. We're almost at an hour, ladies. So
well, we could
go ahead.
I think we should decide off air, but
Yes.
we could do a wheel together, or we could have people bring their wheels to us if they want to, and we could talk about what these things mean and like some of the houses and how they could be expressed.
Okay.
I'm excited. I actually really.
So
there's early tonight. Now I want to do this.
Yeah. So our assignment is to have our wheels put together by next week, and
or
then if you're go ahead.
Your archetypes, and we all put them down. Like I'm not going to do mine again because her instructions are do it once, don't do it again.
Yeah. Why put yourself through that?
So you pick it out of, say a prayer, pick it out of a bowl and put it up there in front of everybody?
Yeah, let's do that. I'm totally up for that. Totally up for that.
Why not?
Yeah, we're going to do that. And people could do that with us. All right, it's time for the cards.
Please.
Kim, wait, I just have to say, Kim, thank you. I know that's got to be exhausting, all that information. This was chock full of really great stuff tonight. Kim, thank you.
But you have to shoveling all day long.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to pass out as soon as the camera's off.
I love it. And then Sherry Freed comes in. Yay, cards.
Yay, cards. Go, Sherry. Go.
All right, I don't know who wants to go first, but
Kim does because she worked her butt off and she's got to go to sleep, so we can't keep her too long. Here we go.
Okay.
All right, wait. Okay.
Are you singing Moon River to yourself, Donna? Moon.
No, I'm just trying to connect with Kim's energy.
I'm stopping.
Yeah. Did stop? All right, here we go. Answered prayer.
It's gonna stop snowing.
You're so really? Cute. That's what you're gonna waste it on? Give it a good one, Kim. Come on.
She's got the boyfriend there. She's got candles. She's got her pillows.
True, and she snowed in.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then study.
Oh, more studying.
I'm always studying.
Wow.
He's always studying.
Wow.
All right, delicious. Let's see you and your red fox.
Yeah, red fox. That's it. Ready now.
I'm like, ah! Let's see if she gets children again. Body care.
Yeah. Yep. I got it. I like it.
Abundance.
I'll take it.
She's a prostitute.
Yes. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Chris, get them dollars out. Where's cooking up?
Dollar bill, y'all. All right. Do you money or should we say Moon River? Go ahead, girl.
Wait, what song is this?
Moon River. Because you look like you're like, I'm so in love. You just look like you're like from a 1950s movie, like swooning.
I am a swooner.
I know you are. I can tell. You're swooning all over the place. Okay. Go ahead, girl.
Okay, let's see. Okay. Study. Got to
get your wheel together.
Oh my God,
Michael, there he is.
Always. I tell you, I call the angels. They show up.
That is awesome. Well, ladies, this was amazing. Thank you for taking us through. I know this was a huge topic, but it's really exciting. And I can't wait next week to make our wheels. So everybody out there, get your archetypes together and we're going to make a wheel.
All right. I'm getting a card for Sherry.
Okay.
I have to. She gets so excited.
Go for it.
Tracy, you tell me to stop for her.
Stop, Sherry.
Oh my. Self-acceptance. That's a good one.
That is such a good one for her. She doesn't realize how awesome she is and she needs to accept.
Love yourself, Sherry.
Yes. That is awesome.
And serenity.
Serenity now, Sherry. Serenity now.
Good one.
This was a
You're
great
welcome. Good night, Ryan.
Right.
Good night.
All right, ladies, we'll see you next week. I'm so excited. Mwah. And I hope that we all like get out of the snow and it's beautiful. And at least we all forgot about COVID for a day.
That's right.
Isn't that
Just
right?
take the
Isn't
time.
that awesome?
Yeah,
A great
take your
distraction.
snow day and study your wheel. That's what we need to do. Take all that
Okay.
snow
All
time
right.
and study.
Love you. Bye.